Hello, good morning. Happy Tuesday, July the 8th. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. You are tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI Show for short, because we do bring you way too much information, like learning about Kizzle yesterday. If you don't know, you better go watch the replay, watch the video from yesterday. So literally, it's anything from random Snapple cap details about things you never knew you needed to know to the hot topics like, no Jeffrey Epstein client list. And Ted, you better believe I have lots of thoughts about that one.
I'm so surprised. Never
so not a straight lace show, and probably especially not today because of some of the topics. We're live Monday through Friday.
Summer Henley right now. Just want to be clear here.
Ah, you're formal. By the way,
I want to. I have not prepared you for this, but I'll almost never prepare you for things like this. So, here in the Rall household, today is Summer Acceptance Day. That's the first day of the year after it becomes blazing hot that you don't keep the air conditioner on 24/7, and you start to live inside with unclimatized conditions. You might not do it all day, but you do it for part of the day because you're like, okay, now my body's accepting. So today is Summer Acceptance Day. Happy, sad, and
so it's always like right after 4th of July, somewhere thereabouts.
No. It's different for every person. Some people have no Summer Acceptance Day. They live in the Midwest like I did, and they basically cruise right through the hot all the way to the fall. AC 24/7. I respect that completely. But other people, they roll Summer Acceptance Day like first day. They don't like air conditioning. So, but for normal people like myself, we sort of like, we have a hard time because there's no spring in New York. It goes from like 40 to 90 in one day, and that's it. So, it's rough. And so it's like, okay, AC. But then it's kind of like, okay, all right, I'm getting used to it. So,
I thought you were just being green.
Well, I am broke, so I'm also trying to
save
a little money on the AC. Yeah, so there's that.
Well, here in Northern Virginia, I don't know about DC proper, but in Northern Virginia, energy prices are actually still relatively low. I mean, relative to crossing the river into DC proper, where the prices have spiked. Virginia gets all of its energy from 3 different sources. So there's hydro. Hello, the mighty Potomac. There's hydro. There's 1/3 nuclear. People don't realize that.
Which is a clean, relatively
clean. And fossil fuels. So that, the combination of the 3 keeps Virginia homes air conditioned or heated at a fairly reasonable price.
And it's not going off all the time like in Texas.
Correct. Texas, which has their own grid, obviously. So
such as it is.
Not great. But because I grew up in a poor immigrant household in Los Angeles, and believe it or not, Ted, most older homes like the one I grew up in an old ranch house, ranch style home, they weren't made with air conditioning.
I know in LA, it is surprising. It surprised me. San Francisco, which is like really one of my least favorite cities in the United States.
Yes,
it like has this like thing where it's basically the culture is, we don't have air conditioning because it's never that hot. And I'm like, but except for 3-4 months out of the year when it's blazing hot. Well, yeah, right. But then we coast right through that. And I'm like, well, that's true.
I don't even know.
Most of the country that has air conditioning is like, most of the country that has air conditioning, it's not hot, blazing hot more than 4 months out of the year. They're just weird. The Native Americans.
Just to be clear, Southern Californians and Northern Californians, we're like 2 different species.
Oh, yeah.
Like completely. So I'm not super familiar with their culture up there. And
well, you're only allowed to wear, stuff from Columbia Sporting Wear and REI.
I've heard that. I've seen that.
It's by law.
They do like REI. They do. I think that's their dress code.
When you arrive at the border, you will be checked, and you could be killed and buried in a pit if you refuse to comply.
for people that don't know, because California is long, so once you hit like the Central Coast, that is where the delineation line is, and you go from dressing in like cool, stylish fashion in SoCal. Once you hit the Central,
Although in SoCal, all the women, it's very confusing for men because all the women dress like prostitutes, whether they're the CEO of a bank or a studio executive or a prostitute. So you just don't know. So literally, like, you might walk up to a lady and she's like, "I'm the governor of the state, asshole."
That's not true.
I'm like, oh, okay, sorry.
I can confirm that is true, and also for the men, especially if you're under 50, you cannot tell if they are homeless or they're dressing hipster.
True.
This is like anyone under 50,
and all
male,
the men are dressed like alcoholics. All of them.
Basically. So
whether again, the studio executive, but the thing is, here's the thing: they are alcoholics, so it works.
But just to be clear, my girlfriends and I lived in downtown LA when I was 30 years old, and it was still a little grimy. It's returning to its original baseline grime.
Yeah, that's true.
But when I was 30 years old, it was kind of in this in-between phase of gentrifying and still got its grit.
This is like 15 years ago or so?
15 years ago, 15, 16 years ago. So it still had a little bit of teeth and edge to it back then, but it still had a little, the Staples Center was new and all of that. So
always has some edge. Yeah.
It has the edge. So my girlfriends and I, back in our younger single days, we used to play this game when we'd be sitting at like sidewalk cafes or whatever, and we'd scope out the guys walking by and we'd be like, hipster or homeless?
H or H. The other thing that's strange about Los Angeles is there's no real clear distinction between a dangerous slum controlled by gangs and a normal, safe, working class neighborhood. They look exactly the same. That's only way you can tell the difference is the bars on the windows and on the doors. That's it.
But a lot of
so if you're from out of town, you've heard these stories that happen where someone's coming from LAX, they take a wrong turn off of Interstate 5 or Interstate 10, they end up in some terrible neighborhood, and that bad things happen to them. But if that had happened to them in Cincinnati, they would have known they were.
Oh, because you would know that you're. You
can tell from the architecture. Everything about it is different. But boarded up, everything. But that's not true.
I think you can tell that in NorCal, not in SoCal. But here's the thing with us, most of our homes in SoCal, our weather is better in SoCal. So there's a reason that people didn't create, homes that were standard with air conditioning, even homes that were built in the 70s and 80s when air conditioning was a thing. My house was built in the 1950s. And so it didn't have that. It was amazing that we had central heat.
In the Midwest, that was exactly when air conditioning. All houses built after 1955 have air conditioning, pretty much.
Oh, wow. Well, we didn't. And I suppose because of where I was at in Los Angeles, like you could still, back then, you could still feel some of the colder air coming in off the coast, even though I was probably like 15 miles inland. So we didn't have air conditioning. So the summer months, there were days we used to have some humidity when I was growing up in the 80s, and due to climate change, it's completely gone. It's more like Las Vegas hot now. So for me now, having air conditioning is like mind blowing, and being able to afford air conditioning is mind blowing. So to me, I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this and not be sweating my ass off and have swamp ass.
One of the most important inventions ever. There's people who I don't like it blowing on me.
I don't like it blowing on me though.
I'm like, let it blow on. Let it blow.
I don't like that. I don't like the breeze. I don't like a fan. I don't like ceiling fans.
I've got a fan on me right now, right behind me.
I don't like that. I don't understand. I see the fan behind you. I don't like that. I just like the air to be chill. Chill. Unless it's the ocean breeze, not worth it. Anybody that, enjoys the coast knows what I'm talking about. If it's not the ocean breeze, it's not the same thing. I don't want it. But keep the air kind of cool. So, that said, the Ted Rall household, just tell people, Ted, just tell them that you're green. And that's why you're not turning on the air conditioning.
but that's kind of a lie because I don't really. I mean, I don't believe in. I mean, yeah, I want to save the planet. I just think it's too late, and I don't think that what I do makes any difference. I'm a nihilist.
Oh my
man.
God, you're so futile. Yes, everything is futile.
Well,
Futile.
It is. Everything is futile. I mean, look, if you vote, makes no fucking difference.
That's true.
If you recycle, makes no fucking difference. If you demonstrate, makes no fucking difference.
That's true.
Apparently, even if you shoot a CEO of a medical care company, it makes no fucking difference. Nothing makes any fucking difference.
Even if you jail, even if you prison a sex trafficker for sex trafficking, it makes no difference.
Nope, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Thanks, Ted. This is supposed to be the fun portion of the show when everybody's like trickling in to watch the show, get a few laughs.
Robbie just put in the chat, and he's right. Depressed people don't kill themselves. It's the happy ones that do, because they have faults. Yeah, because people who are optimistic, like Candide, the Voltaire play, you're like, if you're, he was, I don't know if you know the play, but anyway, it's like, it became a Broadway musical, all for the best in this best of all possible world. And it's about a guy who's hopelessly optimistic. Everything goes wrong. It takes place in the early 1700s, and there's a massive, and it refers to Lisbon, and like, what happened to Lisbon in 1710 when like there was an earthquake, and then the fire started, and what the fire and the earthquake didn't take care of, the tsunami finished off. Right? So the point is, it's like pretty much that's kind of like, and so Candide gets more and more depressed, and rightly so. If you know to have low expectations, you're not going to be disappointed or let down.
That's fair, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're depressed. So, I'm generally a peppy person, but I do accept that nothing really fucking matters.
No, good.
I don't know how you balance that, but I kind of do, and that's kind of like the LA.
As Dave Edmonds saying, it all winds up in a hole in the ground.
I plan on being cremated. I don't want to take up more space
I don't
than
know
I
if
need
you
to.
know about my wishes, but I suppose since I'm older than you, Manila, and you're in charge, you're my executor of my estate. I didn't tell you that. You're in charge. So
I'll talk to your son about this later.
I want to be treated like an American emperor. I want a pyramid. I want like my brains scooped out with with one of those long sticks that they used.
You want that? You don't want the pharaoh style going up the nose and pulling out?
Well, they can do that too. I also want like everyone I know, you too, Clovis, Robbie, everyone's got to be buried alive outside of my crypt.
So like a pharaoh.
Yeah, so you can follow me into the afterlife. I don't think it's asking a lot. I feel like it's reasonable. You guys should thank me. You're welcome.
Very, very reasonable. See, not me. I either want to be cremated
I want it
and shot out of a
It
cannon.
should take up all of Central Park. People can go somewhere else if they want.
That's a big Ted Rall tomb. I either want to just be cremated and shot out of a cannon out into the, I don't know where. I haven't decided.
Like Hunter S. Thompson.
That's right.
That happened to him at the cost.
I know.
Johnny Depp did that for him.
Johnny Depp was there. Yes, I was going to say.
He was the cannoneer.
That's right. So I want to do something cool like that. Or I might explore being one of these like pods where they put you, so they can rapidly decompose your body and then grow a tree out of you.
Oh, that's what my ex wants. And I was always, I don't know, is it an Asian thing? You guys want to be like in a tree?
Yeah, man. I would like to be like maybe like a beautiful Bodhi tree or like maybe take a part of me and put me into like, I don't know, like a pretty little bonsai tree that maybe my son can trim and keep forever.
Tied together. Forget that. I'm changing my mind about the pyramid. I want my body to be wrapped up with cinder blocks and then dropped on Bibi Netanyahu from about 30,000 feet. I'll die as a hero of the resistance.
He's not going to die. Satan doesn't die.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so with that, you guys are tuned into the TMI show. That is our fun portion where, we're waiting for everybody to trickle in. They're in usually right about now because I see the numbers ticking on my side of this. We're live Monday through Friday.
Are we like a lenient a classroom with lenient teachers?
Yes, I would never be that bitch teacher that's like,
kids, don't worry.
Yeah.
I know you were out smoking
man.
weed in the restroom. It's fine. Sit down.
It's like the college. I would rather be more like the college professors I had, like the hippie college professors I had, rather than like my strict high school teachers that I had. It was a world of difference, right, between high school and college. And the college professors, like most of them I had, were really, really cool. And you're an adult. You come in when you come in, and you learn what you're going to learn, and that's on you. Rather than the high school teacher that's like, the bell rings, your asses better be in the seat, or you're going to get detention or whatever. You're going to peel gum off from underneath the desk, after class. Like, I'm not that teacher. I trickle in. It's cool, man. Join us. It's great.
All right. Well,
so,
I figure
anyway,
everyone's trickled.
Everyone's trickled, but make sure you hit, all you tricklers, make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you are consuming this content. We're so close, Ted, to being like officially monetized on YouTube.
We're going to keep asking you after we're monetized, though, because that's just going to give us.
That's true. We need to grow the program. So, I mean, Ted and I need to afford air conditioning.
Yeah.
So there's that. All right, let's get into the news. We're just a few topics today. So let's go ahead and do that.
Dozens of heavily armed federal agents in military-style gear conducted what they called an immigration enforcement operation in LA's MacArthur Park. Someone left the hate out in the rain, and I don't think I can take it because I don't think I can make it again. Anyway, LA Mayor Karen Bass is furious. She quickly arrived on the scene of what was going to be a raid, although it's very unclear if anyone was actually ever arrested, because as soon as they showed up, everyone, including the kids who'd been playing in the park, ran away. Everyone, all the shopkeepers closed their stores. This is a very Latino neighborhood, by the way. That's very important to understand. It didn't used to be, but it is now. Minutes before, there were more than 20 kids playing. Then the military comes through, the mayor wrote on X. The second I heard about this, I went to the park to speak to the person in charge to tell them it needed to end now. Absolutely outrageous. Border Patrol was photographed at the park. Local media reported that they also brought military vehicles and their own Department of Homeland Security helicopter. Boys be having fun. The operation started at about 10:30 in the morning yesterday. It lasted about an hour. Activists with megaphones alerted people in the park, and people were seen running down the street yelling, "La migra," which means, of course, immigration officials. Protesters gathered in the park, screamed to the officials to get the fuck out, and Bass was seen among the scrum using a Border Patrol agent's phone. I don't know if she asked to use it or if she just stole it, to speak with a senior official. You're urging the officers to leave. I don't work for Karen Bass, Border Patrol El Centro Sector Chief Gregory Bovino, you can't make up that name, told Fox after the operation. Better get used to us now, because this is going to be normal very soon. We'll go anywhere, anytime we want in Los Angeles. Local activists condemned the operation, which of course followed Trump sending federal troops to LA to put down protests. Those protests came to an end quite a while ago, though, and yet the military is still there for some reason. I guess they're bored, which is why they had to do this publicity stunt. I
used to go to this Yoshinoya all the time. It's right at the corner of Alvarado and Wilshire.
The Trump administration's spending package gives ICE about $170 billion. And if you're unemployed and you can't pay your bills, maybe you should just join ICE, because there's not going to be any money for you. Well, I have thoughts.
Well, Ted, can I run around? Can I run around like Kristi Noem with like my hair and makeup all done and in my Prada shoes, my Prada pumps, run around playing ice? Like, can I do that and get paid?
Maybe. Let me just say, okay, so this shit is illegal. I want to be really clear here.
It's an intimidation tactic.
The Posse Comitatus Act prohibits the deployment of military forces inside the United States.
But are these guys military forces? But is the
They are.
Is Homeland Security technically military?
If it looks like a fascist and it walks like a fascist and it flies a helicopter like a fascist, it's a fascist. Yeah, that's a military force. Look at the way they're dressed. I mean,
there's Captain Bovino right there talking to Mayor Bass.
Yes, Mr. Bovino. So, like, I mean, honestly, if ICE wants to go to LA, and certainly they have every right, if they showed up, you know, dressed in their normal uniforms, their civilian uniforms, or wearing those ICE T-shirts, and dressed and acted normally without, say, military equipment. They have armored personnel carriers, helicopters, you know, helmets. ICE guys don't need that shit. That's military.
I mean, look how he's armed. Just look at. I think he's got like a grenade.
Look at Chuck Norris there on the phone.
That's Mr. Bovino.
Yeah, Mr. Bovino, aka Ugly Chuck Norris. You know,
that's
and
Captain
by the way,
Bovino or whatever his name is.
I don't think I'm kind of a conservative. I don't think that people with tattoos should be allowed to serve in the military. But
what?
Okay, yeah, that's me. That's right. But anyway,
what?
My point. Yeah, no.
You know I'm all tatted down, right? So I guess
so. Don't join the military. I think it's unprofessional. But anyway, the point is, these guys are goons. And what is this all about? This is about fucking intimidation, right? This isn't about anything else. So whether it's about intimidation for a good reason, let's say, you know, from their point of view, enforcing an immigration law and deporting illegal aliens, or it's intimidation to push activists around and terrorize the Latino population. Either way, it's about intimidation. It's not about enforcing the law. This is about terrorizing local populations. And therefore, you know, it is illegal. And Karen Bass, instead of fronting and showing up, she should file a federal lawsuit demanding that this come to an end under the Posse Comitatus Act. The law is clear. This is well-established legal precedent. There is no reason for this. It should be stopped.
Well, I'm with you on all of that. The only thing I'm unclear on is regarding the Posse Comitatus Act is because Homeland Security, they're under DHS, and I don't know, DHS does not fall under the Pentagon.
No, what we need, you're quite right, Manila. What we need here is a ruling that says that if you act as like a military force, then you are considered under the law to be a military force. I mean, look, if the Department of Agriculture shows up in Iowa, you know, with APCs and tanks and military choppers and you know, and long guns and RPGs, they're a military force. I don't care that they're the Department of Agriculture. You know what I mean?
I think that's where the legal loophole is going to live. It's going to exist is based on how DHS is classified, ICE, where they're classified, and who their ruling agency is. But to your point about this being obviously a stunt, because they didn't arrest anybody. They actually showed up for an hour and did. I mean, there's more video I can show you, and we'll listen to Mayor Bass talk about it.
Honestly, if you really wanted, if they were interested in, you know, just for people who are like illegal immigration hawks, you should be pissed about this. This is not how you catch illegal immigrants. I mean, you want to catch illegal immigrants, you get a bunch of dudes who are dressed like normal people,
right?
People who are fluent in Spanish, probably. You insinuate yourself into the neighborhood. You sneak in, and then you nab them.
You go hang out at Home Depot and listen.
Undercover operation, right? Like you don't do this.
This is intimidation.
This isn't about catching anyone. This is a waste of taxpayer money, no matter how you look at it.
Absolutely, and it's total intimidation. And like I said, the video that was showing right at that intersection of Alvarado and Wilshire, I used to go to that Yoshinoya all the time. If anybody knows what Yoshinoya is, delicious. I wish it was out here on the East Coast. But anyway, I know this neighborhood.
What Yoshinoya is. This is your second reference.
It's Yoshinoya. They call it Yoshinoya Beef Bowl, and it's a fast casual. It's like the McDonald's of Japanese food, but not quite as junky.
Well said.
So you get like a bowl of rice with, you pick your protein and your vegetables, and off you go. Like that's It's a very simple menu. There's like 5 or 6 items on there, and
Manila, did you not get my reference to the song MacArthur Park?
I know, I've heard of this one. I don't know
if that's a generational. Oh my God! This was all over the radio when I was a kid. All over.
Maybe.
And it's a
maybe I've heard it.
It might be one of the worst songs that's ever been made. Like someone left the cake out in the rain, and I don't think I can make. I don't think I can make it because I don't think I can bake it again.
Oh my God!
So bad, so bad, so bad.
So this.
And who leaves the cake outside? Why in the rain?
I know. So this park, let me just explain to non-Angelinos, this park is normally teeming with life and activity. Kids playing soccer, grown-ups playing soccer, baleta mans, which is the ice cream man that pushes the little cart when it goes ding, 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 and he rings the bells. Everyone goes running to get Mexican ice cream. You get the elote man.
Actually.
It's a beautiful park.
It was designed in the 20s in that kind of great, like
Art Deco, beautiful vibe. Design.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so much like specifically Mexican culture in that park now. If you've 100%. Gone there a year ago, I mean, when I lived there, in that area 15 years ago.
And apparently they've been sweeping people up. Just
amazing. It's an amazing Latino. Neighborhood. But sure is that, yes, there's gang violence, and I'm going to, yes, Robbie, there's tons of gang violence there. Ups and downs. Los Angeles is known for gang violence, drugs and all of that, sure. But generally speaking, the park was an okay, I would go there. I lived a few miles, like 2 miles down the road from here. I would go here as a small single Asian woman walking around by myself. It's fine.
I met my agent for lunch there a few years ago, and
your Asian or your agent?
My agent.
Oh,
and I walked through the park. Not my Asian. I don't own an Asian. But I walked through the park, and it was nice. It's by New York standards, you'd be very happy to have a park like that.
Yes, absolutely. And so normally it's just bubbling full of life. There's like food trucks outside, and it's just generally a nice place to be. And I get videos and messages from friends back home. I get messages every day of people showing me what MacArthur Park looks like, what all these different parks near and around the LA. Oh my God, you see that way he was driving?
Yeah.
So it's intimidation. But now it's a fucking ghost town. Santee Alley, which is downtown LA, where normally you would go get like direct to consumer goods where the manufacturers are, because there's a lot of, like leftover products or whatever. And the manufacturers get to keep it from the factories keep it from the manufacturers at a discounted rate. Maybe they're slightly damaged, clothing that's like sewn like an improper stitch. And so you can buy things for pennies on the dollar. Everything is a ghost town. This is just outside of downtown LA proper where I lived. Everything, the videos my friends send me from home almost daily, it doesn't look like my hometown anymore. It's unrecognizable how eerily quiet and dead it was. It wasn't this dead during COVID. And Gavin Newsom, as we know, shut down the whole of California during COVID. And it didn't look this dead. Like, it is more dead now.
In LA, they have like a very high Latino population. The estimate is 50% of the population is Latino. 10% of the population is believed to be roughly undocumented. They don't have legal status. I've noticed though, La Migra is not like really here in New York in the same way. I got to tell you, I think the safety of the federal agents could not really be guaranteed. New Yorkers wouldn't tolerate them. I think they would be hurt. And not just by Latinos or targets. So I think the population would generally just not tolerate it.
I want to play Karen Bass and hear what the mayor had to say. And I'm no fan of Karen Bass. Personally, I've interviewed and talked to her a number of times when she was here on Capitol Hill. Super nice lady. I wouldn't go with, if she were my auntie growing up, or I wouldn't take my homework assignments to her. Let's just say that. If you know what I mean? Very nice lady. I don't know how this woman
got to be mayor of LA. Yeah.
I have thoughts on that, but that's for a different conversation. So, okay, let's hear from Mayor Bass. So we saw her. I played the video a moment ago from the local ABC7 and local Fox, where she showed up
By the way, my mom
talk to
called
Mr.
from
Bovino.
1972, and she wants her outfit back.
I like her mint green outfit, actually. I think it looks good. It's a good color. I like it. Mint green is nice. But anyway, so we saw that video. She takes the phone from Mr. Bovino and is talking to who knows who. And then she goes and does this emergency press conference. So, here's what she had to say.
Today, I was on my way to the press conference.
If the video weren't buffering.
With the governor. While I was on the way, though.
Good grief. I don't know what's happening with my internet.
I got alerted that there was a ICE operation, military intervention. Who knows?
Let's start this over. I don't know if it's gonna play. I don't know why her video.
I was on my way to the press conference with the governor. While I was on the way, though, I got alerted that there was a ICE operation, military intervention, who knows, at MacArthur Park. I turned around. We went to the park. I could see a helicopter in the air. I think it was a Black Hawk helicopter. And I saw military tanks. It was the Custom and Border Patrol, and it might have been military on the periphery. To me, this is another example of the administration ratcheting up chaos by deploying what looked like a military operation in an American city. Now, you can spin it any way you like, but in my opinion, it's a political agenda of provoking fear and terror. Frankly, it is outrageous and un-American. Who were in the park today were children. It was their summer camp, their summer day camp. And I spoke to an 8-year-old. I never let on what was going on upstairs. But did this 8-year-old tell me that he was afraid of ICE? I think it's pretty dramatic that a child said to me that he was fearful of ICE. So what I saw in the park today looked like a city under siege, under armed occupation. I just think it's important that we continue to tell the truth to the American people. There was no protest. There was no disorder that required that.
And she's absolutely right, Ted. There was nothing going on there. So just before 11 in the afternoon, these ICE agents roll up in their tactical gear. They show up on horseback. They showed up in Bearcats. And literally, it looked, you just saw the video. It looked like a freaking military operation. And as of us talking right now on Tuesday, the day after, the mayor's office has yet to reconcile and have proof of what they were actually doing there. Like, they don't know. Like, there's no warrants for a particular arrest. You can't just show up in a major metropolitan American city like this, rolling up in military vehicles, in Humvees and otherwise, and just roll through in a show of force in a line. And I'm looking here at the Fox local. You can't show up on horseback like this, just rolling through the damn city, going through the park like this. Look at this. Mm-hmm. Look at this. How is this acceptable? That's not a Black Hawk. I don't think she knows. But whatever.
No, that's not a Black Hawk.
But look at these military vehicles. How is this acceptable?
Here's the thing. So this issue has, the Posse Comitatus Act has been litigated many times, but the question that I raised has literally never been raised in a federal court. Namely, if a federal agency like ATF, the FBI, ICE, Border and Customs Enforcement, that is not a member of one of the branches of the military, if they use military equipment, are they effectively the military for the purpose of the Posse Comitatus Act? And I would like to see that decided by a court. I mean, the argument that I would make is that the spirit of the law was not to say we don't want, specific enforcement agencies in American cities, is that Americans don't want to look out the windows of their apartments and see armed troops in their cities.
I mean,
that's what this was
look
about.
At this video.
That is what
look
it was about.
Ted.
Yeah.
They're storming through a soccer field on horseback.
Yeah, and terrorizing
in a line.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And people are terrorized with, I mean, ordinarily you would see people walking by with, baby buggies and pushing,
By the way, those horses have in recent months trampled a lot of people on purpose.
Oh God.
So, people have died.
Yes. I mean, just look at this. They're in formation like a military line. Who are you there to arrest? Jeffrey Epstein? I don't know. Like that's not what's happening in downtown Los Angeles. This really, I used to live right here, like just a mile down the road. Remember I told you a story before, Ted, when I lived downtown, that we used to get notes under our doors of our apartments saying that don't be scared, but whoever, I don't know what department, but whoever, U.S. government, USG, might be having some guys rappelling down the side of your building today. So don't be scared. They're doing tactical training for terror. They got to be able to rappel.
They are the terror.
We used to get those notices because I lived in an old historic building downtown, and it's, relative to when it was built, it was considered a high rise. And they needed to be able to learn how to rappel down buildings, my building. And so this is, this kind of action has been forming and coming for years. So I'm not that surprised that they're doing it. But the reason that they're citing for doing it now, back then it was terror alert. 15, 16 years ago, it was terrorism. And now it's the terror by the Latinos, I guess, hanging out in MacArthur Park, selling you snow cones.
Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to change. And as usual, there's no left really to protest it. There's no socialist party. There's no socialist movement. And it's only something like that can really actively, day after day, challenge these people. Look, I love Angelenos. I like their spirit and their moxie. And they do have good activists who are, throwing shit at these people. And that's great. But it's not the kind of organized, sustained action that can prevail in the end. Yeah.
No, I totally get what you're saying. And it's so disheartening for me to see this happening literally in my hometown, to see, look at, I don't know. So the thing with everyone wearing black, just so you know, LA, everyone wears black, even in the dead of summer.
Well, New York City, same thing. It's an urban uniform.
Right. It's just what people wear. So I don't want people saying these are all Antifa. That's not true. I don't like Antifa either, but it's just people in LA wear
people
black.
Like Antifa? I love Antifa. I'm on Team Antifa all the way.
I am
How
not.
It stands for anti-fascist. So if you're
anti-Antifa,
then you're pro-fascist by definition.
No. I don't. Antifa themselves behaved as fascists during COVID, during COVID, and during the Black Lives Matter movement stuff in 2020, which coincided with COVID. No, I do not condone. I don't.
What did they do?
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
Antifa
I'm not kidding.
Took over American cities like in the Pacific Northwest. Should we remember the CHOP zone? That was Antifa. I'm not okay with that. Like, that's not, no.
What do you mean the CHOP zone?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The CHOP zone that turned to the Chaz zone. Antifa took over, was it Portland?
Oh. Yeah.
You conveniently forgot that.
They took over Portland. Who wants Portland anyway? Portland sucks. Antifa
came to D.C. I saw that firsthand. I saw Antifa here in D.C. firsthand. I was still working down.
What were they doing that was so bad?
They were terrorizing people, literally eating. If you're eating on the at a sidewalk restaurant because it was COVID, you had to eat outside. They were terrorizing people with their whole BLM whatever, and if you didn't want to chant their chants, they were going to harass you. They were going to harangue you. They would surround your cars. That happened. I was there. I witnessed it. I literally was afraid to be downtown during the 2020 riot. So maybe it wasn't a thing in New York City,
So you
but it was
didn't
certainly a
want
thing.
to say that Black Lives Matter?
Correct. No.
Why not? You don't think Black Lives Matter?
I think all lives matter.
Okay, but you know the origin of Black Lives Matter. It was
And
never,
first
it was
of all,
never
I'm
to
not
say that white lives didn't matter. It was just to say that
No,
you know,
I get that.
Black lives
I get
do
that.
matter as opposed to
Of
the way
course.
that they are treated by the system.
A black life matters, an Asian life matters, a white life matters.
Right.
But so the point is,
Everyone knows white lives matter because
when the
they're
group
protected
when
by
the group
the authorities.
when the BLM group became this crooked, shady organization,
Well, that's true.
that started funneling money. I'm not
the
somebody
movement
that
wasn't like that. Though.
I'm not somebody that actually ever falls in line with like group think. I don't give a fuck who you are. I stopped being a cheerleader because I realized in high school like they were this weird little clique, and I'm not like that. I just don't fucking like groupthink of any sort. I think for myself, and I would never like. You can fuck off if you're going to try to make me chant anything. Fuck you. I don't care who you are, what you try. Like, there are times like I'm not going to pledge of allegiance. I did that in high school. I was like that. It was never, I'm not going to change. That's who I am. I didn't want to join Girl Scouts for that reason. Like, I'm not into groups. I'm not into like
Boy Scouts and loved it.
I'm not into that
Silver
shit.
Palm.
I do not care what group you are. I just don't like any kind of organized group think anything. Like, I don't care what it is. Not into it. So when the BLM thing happened, no, of course not. I'm not into that. I'm not into you destroying cities. I'm not into you bringing down monuments and statues. Like, I think they serve a historical purpose. So anyway, my point to this here is looking at the video. These guys are not Antifa.
Historical statues, FYI.
These guys are not Antifa. What we're looking at. These guys are just normal people in LA that are trying to videotape this kind of.
Yeah, that's part of the culture, by the way.
It's just what they look like. So
Angelinos have always, even pre-cell phone, whenever the authorities are up to no good, they've always stood by as witnesses just to make sure that things don't get too crazy. It's just
that's how Rodney King happened.
Part of the culture. Yeah, the guy. Well, wasn't the guy like accidentally testing his video?
He was testing his
out the window.
Yeah, but the point is, he didn't go, "Oh shit, I shouldn't be taping that." He was like, "Zoom in."
And he lived in kind of like a not that populated area, like kind of like off the freeway.
Yeah, it was a random weird area. But the same thing happened with the whole Reginald Denny thing. Like, Angelinos don't like, they want to.
We got two more topics to hit, so let's. We should keep.
Yeah. We want to.
Plus, we have to leave you some time for some Epstein ranting. But by the way, a lot of those statues that were of Confederate figures, they were put up in the early 1900s.
That's a cue for Robbie.
After
that's a cue
the
for Robbie.
Civil War, and they were basically like, "Hey, let's bring segregation back. It's awesome."
There were headstones. No. Most of them were headstones because most casualties, as you know, were buried in mass graves, especially in the fewer dude from Mississippi, and if your dad got killed in Northern Virginia, and that's why most of them were there. Honestly, they were headstones.
They had major public health issues with all the rotting bodies too, like Andersonville and all that. Yeah.
But I mean, that's why no.
But I'm talking about the statues in places like Richmond, Virginia.
Monument Boulevard. Yeah, I mean, that was in tribute, of the leaders of the Confederacy.
Yeah,
but I'm talking about your average. No, I'm talking about your average. Like in my hometown, though, we had a Confederate memorial that got pulled down because of your lovely Antifa people who could all go fuck right on off, and it said in honor of our Confederate dead, because what it was in honor of the Confederate soldiers from Escambia County, where I'm from, who went off and never came back. It was a headstone. So
it's a war monument.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, exactly it. I mean, so if
there's they have in every village, in every city in Europe,
I mean, there's no difference from that than desecrating a graveyard. So, take that for what you will, because that's what it is. That's what they did.
Guys, we have 13 minutes before we lose Manila, so we should move on.
I mean, it's not a hard and fast. I just have to prepare for a meeting, a lawyer meeting.
Well, at least y'all didn't bring me in for immigration because
I know we're gonna make
But you don't have. I know you don't have anything to say about
can't.
what we're about to talk about. A memo by Jeffrey Epstein investigators saying there's no client list of the dead financier, and there will be no further charges. Has people on social media wondering, well, then why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison?
Ghislaine.
Trump's administration ordered a review.
No, wait, hold on. We got to play
right.
the Trump administration position.
Okay, let's hear.
On Ghislaine. Let me just establish for you two men, her name is Ghislaine. It's actually pronounced Ghislaine.
Isn't her name like prisoner number 4722?
Yes. Ghislaine Maxwell, or as Americans would say, Ghislaine. Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell is actually how it's pronounced. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison. You're right. So here's what the White House position says about it. This is yesterday. This is from Fox.
DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable. And I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the president's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death. And they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Follow up on that,
sure.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis.
Do continue, Ted.
I shall. Okay. Trump's administration ordered a review of the Epstein case with a view to publicizing and publishing the names and evidence about any associates of Epstein, who at the time was facing federal sex trafficking charges when he was found dead in his cell at a federal jail here in New York City in August of 2019. Investigators concluded he killed himself. Hilarious. Anyway, a memo by the Department of Justice and the FBI now says there's no actual client list and there will be no more charges. The two-page memo read, the systemic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third party. Nigel Cawthorn, author of Prince Andrew, Epstein, Maxwell, and the Palace, said that might be an argument she can use with a parole board. Why is she the only one who's been prosecuted? I think her lawyers will certainly be working on it. Tim Young, media fellow for strategic communications at the Heritage Foundation, wrote, well, I guess Ghislaine Maxwell was trafficking children to no one. Why would she be in jail then? The memo said that videos submitted to the FBI couldn't be released because of the child abuse issue. Questions have been raised about why the administration couldn't simply release the names. Cawthorn said, obviously there's a whole lot more in this because there's all the videos, what's happening with them, who is shown in them. In other words, who besides the victims. If they don't have the client list that Epstein compiled himself, then they could compile a list from the video, surely. The terms of the indictment did not require the victims to have been abused by anyone other than Epstein. Maxwell was jailed for 20 years, starting in June 2022, following a 1-month-long trial in June 2008. Previously, Epstein had admitted to soliciting prostitution from a minor in Florida and was sentenced to 18 months in prison at that time. But then, he went back to his old ways after that. And by all accounts, Ghislaine does have a little black book or did have one. It's 93 pages long. I'm never going to pronounce her name right. Maxwell. But I mean, people are like, well, there's lots of people in there. Yeah, but just because you know someone doesn't mean that they were participating in crimes. I could be in her black book.
But conversely,
and thought I was an awesome.
But conversely, just because the DOJ says they haven't recovered any evidence doesn't mean that these crimes didn't happen either.
Well, the crimes did happen. The question is
because why is Ghislaine behind bars, and Jeffrey Epstein?
For procuring for him. That's why she's behind bars.
She was. That's procuring is trafficking.
For
in
him.
other words,
for Epstein.
And
that's so why she's behind bars.
What they want us to believe is that this guy had such a voracious
appetite,
desire and appetite for 14-year-old girls in the hundreds and hundreds.
That's what we've been told.
Yes, that's the official narrative. Now, everything that these people have said has just contradicted everything they've said for years about, where I don't care how many blue pills this dude had.
Well, the president himself and the former president himself have both were associates of Epstein, right?
Correct.
He was very well connected, very rich, knew everybody.
When Elon had his initial breakup with Trump, he clapped back at Trump on Twitter by saying, oh, by the way, Trump is in the Epstein files.
Well,
and then
he's on the internet hanging with Epstein.
We see that, right?
Yeah.
So here we are, fast forward 5 or 6 weeks since Elon clapped back with that tweet, and magically there is no list. And again, I'm going to go back to how lawyers hang on lawyerly words. And the government official narrative is there's no incriminating client list. Let's underscore that word that's on the screen there. List. So let's do the Bill Clinton. How do you define sex, actually? How do you define list?
Right.
How do you define list? So maybe Epstein, correctly, they're saying that he didn't have a list. Maybe we're understanding this all wrong. Maybe he just had individual dossiers.
It reminds me of the Mayflower
Not
Madam.
a to-do list.
Mayflower Madam also was well connected, and and had provided sex to a lot of wealthy.
Heidi Fleiss, same
people.
Thing. Black Book.
Yeah, and the same every time the Black Book always disappears. I mean, maybe it ought to, because just because you're in the Black Book doesn't mean that you yourself ever availed yourself of illegal activities or crimes. Possible. I think what's clear here is that probably a thorough. It doesn't feel like this was thorough and that we're being told everything. And I don't know if it. I think a more transparent process would have involved bringing in an outside investigators who are not associated with the government to do this. It would be careful.
Well,
look, people are never going to believe that this is legit. No one.
Whenever there were outside investigators of any sort, for his autopsy, that famous what's his face? Dr. I forget his name, Dr. something. He's always, in any kind of high profile death, Dr. so-and-so is always called in. I think it starts with a B. But anyway, he said the ligature marks around Jeffrey Epstein's throat is inconsistent, and the way the vertebrae broke back here is inconsistent with how you can hang yourself from this convenient pipe that's at the top of his jail cell.
He wasn't. There was no pipe. He was. The allegation, the official story, is that he used a bed frame and that he pulled himself horizontally to choke himself to death.
Even more ridiculous. So it's completely inconsistent with what this doctor, that's outside the investigation, is saying is possible that that any human could possibly do without having, being at a higher angle. So theoretically someone behind you pulling upwards in this position to jerk you up, right? Like, you can't do that in a horizontal, like, seriously. And just,
Well,
and
there's
this,
a lot
by the
more
way, is
to
a
it than
Netflix
that.
trailer.
I mean, there's the fact that also, right, he was on suicide watch.
Right, and the video is
so
conveniently
here's
missing.
so I have
They released new video. Ted,
I have a friend
like,
who served time at the Metropolitan Detention Center at the same time, or shortly before Epstein, and he said that at that time, that Epstein was in there, guards checked every cell for everybody, even if they're not on suicide watch, every 8 minutes, and that if you were on suicide watch, they came by every 2 minutes. They're always walking by, always. Now the thing is, we were asked to believe that anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, no one checked on Epstein. There's a big gap between 8 minutes.
Not only
and
that,
an hour, or
the last
and
time
an hour
somebody.
and a half.
No, it's
gap.
more than that.
And all
it's
the
more
cameras,
than that, Ted.
all the cameras were out,
10:40
only in his corridor.
10:40 p.m. was the last time a guard had seen him until somebody discovered his body at like 6:30 in the morning the next day.
Absurd. And then all the cameras were out. The guards they make sure those cameras are running. You know why? Because if someone jumps them, they want that evidence on camera so that the prisoner is going to be prosecuted. So if the corrections officers do nothing else, they make sure those cameras are running. I mean, there's no way they're going to be like, we'll come by like 6 hours later and if there's no camera, whoop-de-doo.
Like 8 hours later.
It's asking us to believe too much. It just is.
So this documentary from Netflix that came out a couple of years ago, Filthy Rich, this Netflix documentary, they used a video clip of me from my old show.
No way.
So I started getting calls and emails and texts, and when this whole thing was going down, right?
Did you get paid?
No, they just used one of my news clips. I didn't even know that they were. So obviously somebody at Netflix watches, or whoever produced this watches my show, because I covered on my old show in question, I covered this case very, very closely. So this is something, I wouldn't say it's near and dear to my heart, but I know a little bit more about it than the average newscaster, because we covered it pretty much play by play from when he was first indicted and in trouble in 20, whatever year it was, until he died in 2019. And then I watched the whole Ghislaine Maxwell case unfold. And we were doing it in real time on live TV. So I guess somebody at Netflix watched the show and they put a clip of my show of me talking about it on this, on Filthy Rich on the Netflix special. So there is a lot of shady stuff going on with this dude for years. I mean, think about all the high power people that he knew, including Bill Clinton. He knew, I feel like there was some association with the Obamas, but certainly he was friends with Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, who goes by her maiden name now, Melinda French, specifically cited that Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with Bill kind of came between their marriage, but she didn't elaborate. This is during divorce proceedings. She didn't elaborate to exactly what, but she only met him the one time, and she's quoted, Melinda is saying, quoted as saying that she kind of left feeling yucky and icky about this guy, but Bill insisted on being friends with him. Bill Clinton and Bill Gates. And I suppose Hillary just turns a blind eye. I don't know. Who knows? But this guy knew way too many. He was way too interconnected with too many DC and business elites that are fighting tooth and nail behind closed doors, because this is how it works. They are fighting tooth and nail to make sure the details never, ever, ever come out. And there are too many coincidences about his connection to Mossad, being an agent himself, Robert Maxwell being an agent himself, Ghislaine being the daughter of Robert Maxwell. There's just too many. We know from our own CIA, I don't know why we need, it's not anti-Semitic to say Mossad is probably in the world of spycraft, probably better than the CIA, in fact, right? And they have intricate plans, fallback plans all around the world on how to ensnare and hold everybody by the balls. They find out what your predilection is, your nasty little preferences. They find and they exploit those. And I think that's exactly what happened with this guy. And coincidentally, all of this is now happening after Elon says Trump is on the list, and then Virginia Giuffre, remember we covered her weird case of saying she was tweeting from the hospital that she was gonna die in exactly 4 days. She didn't die. She outlived that by many, many weeks, maybe a couple of months. She went home and somehow she suicided. Right? She survived the bus wreck that I couldn't find any information on. Where she lived in, I think, Victoria or something, in Victoria, Australia. I couldn't find any. I don't know how the Aussies do it, in terms of traffic accidents or whatever, but somebody this high profile, the main accuser of Prince Andrew, right? She's not a nobody getting in a car. Like, yeah, it's news, big local news. If any woman gets, in her driving along in her car, gets struck by a school bus speeding at unusual speeds, right? That's local news. But when the victim of that car wreck is Virginia Giuffre, one of the most vocal Epstein accusers and the accuser that brought down the House of Windsor, that made Queen Elizabeth turn her back on her youngest boy, this is not a nobody. And now she suddenly dies, after she outlives whatever claims of her, bodily injuries from the accident. She outlives it by many weeks. And then she goes home, says she's so depressed that her 20 some odd year marriage that we've never heard about being in any trouble, she suddenly has marital problems and the kids are taken away. And now she's in this horrible car wreck and she's debilitated. We don't even know. There's no pictures. There's no evidence. She suddenly dies by suicide. No fanfare, no paparazzi, no pictures of her funeral, no evidence has been, lawyers haven't even come forth. I don't know the laws in Australia and how they do that, but somebody, if she was here in the US, we would know. We would know that she actually died. We'd have, if not a body, we'd have an actual death certificate with, we don't even know how she died. They just claimed that she suicided. So about a month after Virginia Giuffre dies, now there's suddenly no list. That is very strange as to why then Ghislaine Maxwell is behind bars of helping procure young women to go to Jeffrey Epstein. And then I guess she just didn't know what Jeffrey Epstein did with all of these young girls. This is way too shady. This is everything there. Like you said earlier, Ted, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a trafficker. And there's more to this story, and I think it's going to go down like the JFK files. We're never going to find the full truth because there are too many high-profile people involved, and this is the stuff that brings down governments. And this is why I believe whatever happened with Virginia Giuffre here, there's something more to it than her just dying by suicide, the same way Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide, or all of these people surrounding the Clintons dying by suicide. When, Ted, because everybody, around the Clintons, you always blow your head off with a shotgun that's found 30 yards away from you.
There's a lot of recoil, Manila.
Yeah, when you stick your toe on the trigger and then it fires at your head, and the back of your head too.
My most favorite person who was found in the Epstein little black book is Courtney Love.
What?
Yes, her address was in there.
Courtney Love knew
Epstein.
Epstein?
Uh-huh.
Super weird. Hey,
well, she moseyed around in the world of fashion.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, I know some murderers.
Well,
before
most
they were
people know
murdered.
some murderers. 50% of murderers get away with it in the United States.
This guy didn't.
You know
He was
murderers. Everyone knows murderers.
He was a Latin music producer. I'll tell you this quick story. We'll do our last brick story about this. But before we move on, I knew a guy. I was friends with a guy. He and his wife, who is a fairly well-named guy in the Latin music world in Los Angeles, and there was the, I don't know, Latin Grammy Award. I don't know I don't remember the awards. But anyway, I get a call one day. He was going to these awards and he's like, "Hey, Manila, what are you doing tonight? Any chance you're free to accompany me to these awards in Beverly Hills, and then the dinner and after party at the Beverly Hilton, the famous pink Beverly Hilton." Mm-hmm. So I was like, "Yeah, actually, yeah, I'm free." "Well, why isn't your wife joining?" He's like, "Oh, she's indisposed. She can't come. She doesn't mind if you join me." Mm. So I'm like, "Okay." I mean, I knew the couple, so I didn't think anything of it. So I join him and whatever. Fast forward a week later, 1 week, come to find out he had bludgeoned his wife to death that night, and that's why she couldn't make it. And I accompanied him to the dinner at the Beverly Hilton.
Oh,
yeah.
Were you ever quite? Did any detectives ask you any questions?
No.
What?
Because I met my friend. Yeah. No. Like.
What do you mean?
Maybe they didn't know. I don't know. I don't know. No one ever contacted me, and other than us reading the news and going, me and my friends going, "Holy shit, was that the same night?" I mean, because they don't know exactly when she died. They had an estimate, but still nobody contacted me.
And you didn't step forward.
No, it was clear.
Manila.
What he did. It was clear what he did. He bludgeoned his wife and then had to go accept an award at the Beverly Hilton. So, and I just went to go hang out and get a nice dinner, So and it was my friend. Little did I know,
say, I don't blame
he
you.
was a
Cops
killer.
Make everything worse, but well.
Well, I didn't know this at the time. I mean,
but you found out later.
We're like, no way. I found out later, but I mean, he admitted to it anyway. So he's serving life behind bars, and it was just a weird. This is weird life in Los Angeles. So yes, people know unsavory people, whether you know they're unsavory or not, is my point. And Courtney Love is not exactly the
what
as squeaky clean as we who knows, right? But
well, but it's not like she uses drugs or anything, so it's cool.
No, she totally did not drive Kurt to suicide himself.
No.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. But I like Hole. Anyway, that's the band.
They're great. Oh, they're.
I like Hole.
I like her, and I like even though she's insane, and I like her. I like her solo work too. She's a very talented person.
I love Courtney Love. But But anyway, on to our last story, and then we got to run.
Okay.
It's about bricks.
It is. All right. This is like old times. The U.S. is set to impose a 25% tariff on every import from Japan and South Korea effective August 1st. That according to Trump. He also disclosed new rates for 12 more nations, including Malaysia, 25%, Kazakhstan, 25%. What did the Kazakhs do except invent Kizilku? There's South Africa, 30%, Bangladesh, 35%, Laos, the worst, most evil people in the world, 40%, right. And Myanmar, next to Laos, the most evil people in the world, 40%. The upcoming measures were communicated through formal letters to the country's leaders, which Trump posted on social. Trump also signed an executive order delaying reciprocal tariffs against dozens of countries from tomorrow to August 1st. The tariffs were originally supposed to go into effect in April. He postponed them to July to allow more time for negotiations. Now he's doing it again to August 1st. There's deals now with the UK and Vietnam and a preliminary deal with China. The latest updates from the White House reflect Trump's broader strategy of pressuring trading partners into new deals and reducing the trade deficit. Trump threatened to impose an additional 10% tariff on any country which aligns itself with BRICS, which is, of course, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, many other countries. new trading alliance. It's a loose confederation at this point. He's accusing BRICS of adopting anti-American policies. The warning came just hours after BRICS leaders concluded their annual summit in Rio, in which the bloc criticized unilateral tariffs and condemned what it called indiscriminate trade measures. They didn't refer to the U.S. directly. The warning echoes Trump's even harsher remarks in February when he threatened 100% tariffs against BRICS members. BRICS was originally formed by the countries I named in 2006, has expanded to include Egypt, Iran, Ethiopia, the UAE, and India. At the group's summit meeting in Russia in Kazan last year, they approved new partner country status to membership interests shown by more than 30 other nations. Putin said at the summit that the BRICS combined GDP has now surpassed that of the G7 when measured by purchasing power. The group now represents nearly half of the world's population. That's pretty staggering. And 40% of global GDP, even more staggering in a way.
Yeah. So Trump, I think it's funny, Ted, that Trump is like, Japan and South Korea impose tariffs on only you two starting August 1st. So in a couple of weeks, I don't know. What do you think, Ted? Are they gonna fold? Are they gonna be like, oh yeah, sorry, Sensei Trump,
yeah,
whatever?
I think
like we're gonna bend over and take it. And
yeah, I think so. That's what usually happens in these things. I mean, Trump's been getting his way. I mean, the U.S. does have. I mean, Trump's right about this. The U.S. does have tremendous power as a consumer country. Our consumer base is just massive, even with all of our economic problems. We buy so much shit, and if you're in Japan, you don't want to miss out on that American market. Just the cars alone, think about it.
Well, so I think that so here's the thing. Japan being a member of the G7, for example, like this is where they should recognize that being a part of that group has actually harmed them, because when you come to accept that you are not an equal player in this membership of G7, right? When you accept that you understand that this is not how it works, that you're actually subservient to the US, then maybe you'll wake up and realize, okay, I need to go to a group that actually does value everybody as an equal partner, like BRICS. So maybe it won't be long before the Japanese wake up and are like, yeah, actually, we would like to be part of a group that actually cares about everybody's, like uplifting everybody instead of being subservient to just the United States. Under Trump, the American doctrine of hegemony is just laid to bear. We've always known that it's there, and in polite societies of all of these, I've been to some of these summits, like it's polite society. Everybody knows that everybody's a little bitch to the United States. That's the bottom line. That's what it is. But in polite society, we don't say it, and we say we're partners. We're partners. But it's not. It's not true. And we know that the 21st century, every economist is going to agree, 21st century belongs to China, belongs to Asia. The 20th century was an American century, of course. And I'm grateful to have been born in the 20th century and lived it. But I think that time has passed. And I think the future is the global South. It's time. Empires die. And I think we got to witness the end of the American empire, and we're watching it fizzle. And I'm not hoping for that. Obviously, I live here. I would love for this country to be better and do better. But even at some point, the United Kingdom, their kingdomship fizzled, So I think in the 21st century, like, you follow what China's doing, it's incredible, and you can't deny the power that they wield. And if Japan wants to get out from subserviency, they need to make amends with China. Granted, there's like 2,000 years of bad blood there, but but you can get over it and get out from under the jackboot of, at this point, the jackboot being worn by Donald Trump.
Agreed. Totally. Manila, you got to go. So,
I do gotta
you
go.
Okay.
I have some things I got to do. But yeah, I think this is it. Look, you got Modi, you got important players. You have Modi, Xi Jinping, and Putin. Not to say that all these people don't matter, but those are the three countries to watch in the global South.
No doubt.
China, India, and Russia. That's who you watch in the 21st century. So this is good luck, Japan and South Korea. I hope you enjoy American bases.
Well,
Good times.
They're not going anywhere.
Robbie, do we have an ad we have to we do. Okay, we got to do one ad. All right. Let's go ahead and pop that up, Robbie. We got to get that before we run.
There's wait, that's different. I need that. Never mind. Just almost started reading something about Ghislaine Maxwell. That would not be good. That's not an ad.
I was like, that's her ad already?
Yeah.
They've got an ad to free Ghislaine.
Look up. Oh, okay. All right. Got it. Thank you. This sponsorship is from Rumble, one that's incredibly important to the survival of the company. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden-Harris administration. Rumble did not. They held the line. They're attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers. They don't get much of it. Watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble's offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO. When you purchase an annual subscription, go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just happy if you watch us on Rumble. And with that,
we are. And with that, please hit the subscribe button. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for being here. Adios, amigos.
Happy Summer Acceptance Day. Bye.
Bye.